A few months ago, we reviewed one of Canon's most sought-after lenses, the RF 28-70 f2.0, and months later, we still love it. But do we really need it? So we love this lens, and we still take it to almost every shoot. But how different is it actually from our other lenses? We compared the 28-70 to a few of our other lenses, and we wanted to share our results with you. Before we start, let's establish a few things. We are testing the 28-70's capabilities at 3 different focal lengths, 28, 50, and 70 millimeter. We want to also note that almost all of the lenses we're comparing the 28-70 to are EF lenses, so keep in mind that we are shooting with an adapter attached to our camera. Also, the closest prime focal length we have to 70 millimeter is our 85 millimeter f1.8, so stay tuned to see how those compare. And last thing, we want to make sure we're getting the most out of these lenses as we can, so we're comparing each of them at their widest apertures. First up, we decided to see how the 28-70 compared to the EF 28mm f1.8. And right off the bat, we noticed that the EF 28 is much softer, especially around the edges. Then we noticed there was this weird part of the image that looks less like blur and more like a really harsh haze. Well, after a little research, we found that this is pretty normal for this lens when its aperture is wide open, and simply stopping down will significantly increase the sharpness. This issue kinda defeats the purpose of having a 1.8 aperture, but the lens is still sharp and beautiful when shooting at a 2.8 or higher. Next, we tested not one, but 2 different 50mm lenses against the 28-70, and the results were a little surprising. First, we wanted to see how it compared to Canon's RF 50mm 1.8, otherwise known as the Nifty 50. At first glance, it's almost hard to tell which is which, but once you look closer at the images, you can definitely see a difference in sharpness. But as always, the Nifty 50 is a safe bet. The 50mm 1.4 is a different story. We actually did 2 different tests, and in both, the 50mm f1.4 had trouble focusing while wide open. It was just subtle enough to miss while shooting, but once we brought it into Lightroom, we could immediately tell that the images were softer than the other 50mm lenses. Like the 28mm, this lens still takes beautiful images, but you have to be a little more conscious when shooting at a larger aperture. One of our favorite prime lenses is our 85mm f1.8. It is a great portrait lens and gives our images beautiful bokeh. But is it worth switching out lenses for a 15mm difference? That's exactly what we're looking to find out in this test. We decided to crop in the image with a 70mm in order to get the images looking as close as possible. This is another case where it's hard to tell at first glance, but once again, taking a closer look, you're able to see that the 28-70 is a sharper lens. However, even between the small difference in apertures, you can still see the difference in bokeh if you're looking for it. You can see it most notably in the trees behind Dylan. So as you can expect for a $3,000 lens, there are going to be differences in image quality. It's much sharper and better overall lens, and to be honest, it better be, because even if we added up the cost of all of the lenses we reviewed, we're still not at $3,000. But is it worth it? I'm a little on the fence and think it all depends on what you primarily shoot. For us as wedding photographers, it is great. We can use and pack one lens and have little to worry about throughout the day in regard to lenses. But if I wasn't a wedding photographer, I'd probably spend that $3K elsewhere. What about you? Do you think the Monster 28-70 is worth the money, or would you rather stick with prime lenses? Let us know in the comments and check out our official review of the Canon RF 28-70mm f2.0 if you haven't already. Thanks for watching!